welcome to part 5 of module 4. In this part, we will discuss about various models available in revenue management. Okay, in the previous part, we discussed about various aspects of pricing and revenue management when the constraint is introduced, when multiple segments are introduced, how to take care of the revenue management, how to improve the revenue. All those points were discussed in the previous part. And we will continue that as the conditions change, what will happen, how the models change, all those things we will discuss in this part. I have considered various sources to prepare this PPT, and this is exclusively used for the purpose of education. First, we will discuss about revenue management under uncertain demand and limited capacity situations. Till now, whatever we have discussed, they were all having certainty in demand, but which is not true as per the real scenario. I have been telling you in my various videos that if at all there is anything certain, it is uncertainty. So uncertainty is there and will be there forever. So how to take care of revenue management under such uncertain demand situations, and how to take care of revenue management during limited capacity situations. Limited capacity in the sense you may not exceed that particular seating capacity, maybe in a train or in a bus or in a hotel rooms. There are the seats are limited, hotel rooms are limited. Okay, you cannot go beyond that, you cannot adjust that immediately, that's highly impossible, right? So how to maximize the revenue management, how to maximize the revenue, how to do a better revenue management under such situations, we will discuss. While designing differential pricing for perishable capacity, we have assumed that demand can be estimated accurately, but in most business situations, demand cannot be estimated accurately because it is that uncertainty is a part and parcel of the business. So it's almost impossible to estimate this demand accurately. The name itself says it is estimation, it's not calculation, it's just estimation. We say something, and it it could be more than that, it could be less than that, it could be exactly that. Various players get into that situation, and they will change our predictions. This will pose some serious problems in the implementation of differential pricing scheme, so as to meet the goal of revenue optimization. You would have set a goal for revenue achievement, and because of uncertainty, whatever you had planned, it may not be possible for you to achieve. This present COVID-19 situation is the best example. Nobody had anticipated this, but it is going on, and unfortunately it's still going on. After more than a year, it is still going on. The entire world is facing the trouble, few countries more, few countries less, and second wave, third wave, fourth wave, like that. The mutations are happening, alpha, beta, delta, kappa, gamma, like that. So we do not know where the world goes in another year or so. Capacity allocation under multiple segments. How to do the capacity allocation under multiple segments when demand is uncertain? If an airline just accepts reservations on a first come first served basis, it's quite probable that the flight will be full with just leisure travelers, right or not? See, for example, normally leisure travelers will be fixed a lower price. Okay, and if I say first come first served basis, normally what will happen, the quite possible that 90% of the seats will be filled by leisure travelers, as most of the business travelers travel and at the nick of time. They do not book well in advance, 15 days, 1 month, 3 months in advance. No business travelers will do that. It's only leisure travelers who book an air ticket well in advance, a railway ticket well in advance. Now, normally these business travelers will do it at the nick of the time, just a day early or right on that particular day. In the morning they book, afternoon they travel. This is how they happen. And if I just put it on first come first served basis, probably the flight will be entirely filled with leisure travelers. As a result, what will happen? I may not reap the benefit of higher prices. In order to avoid that, what firms can do, they can reserve a minimum number of seats for high price category, and the same is known as the protection level in revenue management terminology. Normally we call it as a protection level. So I will allot minimum number of seats for higher price category, say business class. So out of 200 seats, say 80 seats are reserved for business class. Leisure travelers are only 120. So what may happen if I put that fix? If the protection level is the lower bound capacity available for the high price segment, booking limit is the upper bound on the seats used for low price segment. What does that mean? Suppose if you have that is the lower bound on the capacity available for the high price, that is the minimum, at least I will get that much. Okay, that is why it is called as the lower bound on the capacity available. At least that much higher price category seats will be booked, that much that at least that much higher pricing revenue I will get. That is why it is called as lower bound. And at the same time it is upper bound on the seats used for lower price segment. That means beyond which the lower price segment cannot be filled. So if you have out of 200 seats, if you have booked 80 seats for the business class and 120 for the lower class, what will happen? That 80 will become the upper bound. Means beyond 120 you cannot go for lower price segment, right or not? So beyond which, if you lower price segment cannot be filled, at least that much loss or reduced pricing you are avoiding. So that is why it is called as lower bound seats on the low price segment. Similarly, there is an upper limit on the number of seats that are booked for the lower price category. That is nothing but upper limit on the lower seats that are booked for the low price category. So what we can arrive at a relationship is high price protection level is equal to the total capacity minus low price booking limit. As I said, if the capacity is say 200 and the low price booking limit is say 120, then the high price protection level will be fixed at 200 minus 180, that is at 80 seats. Now we have to see the trade-off. What is that trade-off? If too many seats are reserved for high price category, then some seats may remain unused. I may not be able to fill up all the seats, just in case the business travelers do not turn up, hoping that they will turn up, but they may not turn up. As a result, what will happen? I could neither fill up the business class nor I could go with the leisure travelers, because leisure travelers 99% of the times they do not come and reserve at the nick of the time. No, that normally that won't happen. Normally they would have booked well in advance. Very few travelers are there, I do agree, but that's very quite few. As a result, what will happen? Few seats may remain unused, unfilled. It's a loss for the airlines company. And at the same time, there could be second case. See, if firms reserve too few seats for the high price category, instead of 80, I may go with that say 40 only. Then what will happen? The company will lose an opportunity to earn higher income, higher revenue. So this is similar to the case of understocking and overstocking in inventory management. What is understocking? I procured less stock. More customers rushed in. I could not supply them. That is termed as understocking. Overstocking. I stocked too much of commodities, too much of products. Customers did not turn up. I had those products may lose their value over time. That is overstocking. So any of these two cases is similar to this, either booking too much high or too much less. Okay. So let P be the price charged to the business traveler and PL be the price charged to the leisure traveler. Let us prepare a module. Let us model how the model can be developed. Cost of understocking is PB minus PL. What is understocking? Going for a lower category. That means not asking for higher or not booking higher number of seats or higher number of commodities. So as a result, what will happen? I could have gained a lot, but I lost it for that. So the cost of understocking is given by PB minus PL. That is the price of the uh, business travelers minus price of the leisure travelers, or higher category price minus lower category price. That much loss, that is the loss, right? So that loss is because of I did not book too much for business class, and as a result whatever the loss, it's towards the leisure traveling. And next is the cost of overstocking. Overstocking in the sense, what? I procured too much. I procured too much, but ultimately I could not sell it. I could not sell it. So whatever is there, that is nothing but your leisure travelers. And finally, whatever you could sell, it is all for leisure travelers only, because you have overstocked. You are overbooked. So that is equal to PL. So optimal service level. What should be optimal service level? It is given by this formula. Cu into 100 divided by Cu plus Cu plus Co. That is equal to Pb minus Pl multiplied by 100 divided by Pb minus Pl plus Pl. Okay. So this is the formula. Now Cu means that is the understocking cost. Co means overstocking cost. What when the values are given, if I substitute, I will get the optimum service level. And optimum protection level for the high price segment is given by mean demand for the high price segment plus K into standard deviation of the demand for higher price. So mean and standard deviation, all of you will know that mean is the average demand for the high price segment, and standard deviation is the deviation from the mean. To what extent deviation will occur from the mean. See, for example, average is say 60 seats and the standard deviation is plus or minus 20, means from 60 I could go up to 80, or I could end up with only 40. 60 plus 20 or 60 minus 20, both are quite possible. That is termed as optimum protection level, and given by mean demand for the high price segment plus K into standard deviation for the demand for high price, where K is the service factor, and for a given service level the corresponding value of K can be obtained from a table as shown here. Okay, this is the service factor versus service level. So under one column service factors are given, and under the second column for service levels are given 0.13%, and it goes up to 99.87%, starting with 0.13%. So this table can be referred if I want to calculate the value of higher upper limit for the higher capacity. Let us take a simple example of say one airlines, when the demand for the business travelers is uncertain. Plan has a total capacity of say 180 seats. Let us assume that Super Airlines decided to charge rupees 2000 for LT, and who are expected to book at least 4 days in advance. Okay, and 5000 rupees for business travelers who do not follow this criteria. If they do not book at least 14 days in advance, they are considered as business travelers, and the tickets will be sold at the rate of 5,000 per ticket. And it has estimated for business travelers is likely to follow normal distribution, with the mean demand being 60 seats and the standard deviation of demand being 20 seats. Okay, the airlines has a classic problem that if it reserves 70 seats for the business travelers and actual demand turns out to be 50, then the loss for an opportunity of 20 seats for the leisure travelers. At least they could have gained something. They will lose that also. And if they reserve 80 seats and if they turn out less, then they reserved only for 70 seats, their demand was 80. Ultimately what happened, they lost an opportunity for, they could have filled for 10 more seats, which they lost the opportunity. This is the case. Now we need to solve this problem. We need to calculate PBPL is given, COCL we have to calculate, and finally the optimum service level we have to calculate. Before we proceed, let me just tell you about what is normal distribution. Normal distribution means the data follows a normal distribution. This is the normal distribution curve, bell-shaped curve. The central portion is called as mu, or the average, and on each side I have minus a sigma, and on this side I have plus a sigma. That is plus standard deviation and minus standard deviation. Okay, so if the average is say 60 seats and the standard deviation is 20 seats, it could be either plus, this is mu is 60 here, and it could be either plus 20 or minus 20. It could be on either side of mu. Okay, sometimes even this is considered as, this side is considered as positive and this side considered as negative. Both are quite accepted. See now what we do, this is the normal distribution curve. Why it is called as normal distribution curve? Most of the data follow this pattern. That's why it is called as bell-shaped curve or normal distribution curve, and it is plotted by using the histogram or the bar chart like this, and then joining the midpoint of all these things, we get the normal curve or bell-shaped curve. Let us solve the problem now. PB is given by 5000, PL is given by 2000, and CU is given by PB minus PL, that is 5000 minus 2000, that is equal to 3000, and CO, that is cost of overstocking. CU is cost of understocking. CO is cost of overstocking. Cost of overstocking is given by PL, and that is given as 2000. What is the optimum service level? Optimum service level, we have the formula, Cu into 100 divided by Cu plus Co. Apply that formula and you will get it as 60%. From table, a factor of, for a service level of 60%, what is the value of K? Where is 60% that we have to search? 46, 54, 59, 61. It is between these two values, means 0.3 and 0.2, between these two values. Approximately it comes out to be around 0.25, right? Approximately it comes out to be 0.25. Let us take that value. Now we will calculate the optimum protection level for the high price segment, that is given by mean demand for the high price segment plus K into standard deviation for the demand for the high price segment. Optimum protection level is given by mean demand. Where is the mean demand? Mean demand is given by 60 seats here. Substitute that. Value of K. Value of K is already I have calculated. We have found out from the table, 0.25. Substitute that. Standard deviation, it is given here 20 seats. Substitute that. And we come out we get the value as 65. That is the optimum protection level for high price segment. That means a high price protection level for business travelers is 65 seats, and booking limit for the low price fares or the leisure travelers is 115. Leisure travelers cannot go beyond 115, and the minimum protection level for business travelers is 65 seats. How do we interpret those results? Let us see that if a firm can accept booking for low fare up to a limit of 115 seats, okay, and those it is applicable to only those who book well in advance, at least before 14 days. What does that mean? 60%, 40%? 60% of the times the airlines will have idle seats in the flight. That means it is only chances of stock out is 40%. That means 60% of the times you will get seats. You do not have any shortage of seats. Shortage of seats is nothing but stock out. That means you have you have to 180 seats, and you run out of the seats. That is termed as stock out. So that chances is only 40%. And 40% of the times, this coming to this 65, what does that mean? 40% of the times, 65 seats reserved for higher price fares will not be enough, and the airlines will have to refuse the seats to high fare paying customers. That is nothing but stock out. Yes or no? See, 40% of the times the 65 seats reserved for high price is not sufficient. That means stock out will occur. Let us understand what is forward marketing and what is spot market. Okay, forward buying is the advanced purchase. Now, normally we also do that, right? Uh, See, we purchase well in advance, just for the reason there is a discount or a rebate or something like that. Anyway, we want that in future. Let me purchase it in advance so that I need not have to spend too much. That is the quite common with the retailer. So obviously the industries also do that. Whenever the price of the raw material decreases, say for example it could be steel or it could be gold or silver or like that, when it reduces, the respective businessman will procure the raw material well in advance at a higher quantity. And why is that necessary? That will save them some amount. That is the reason. Spot market is wait for the right opportunity, as and when it reduces, purchase it. Okay, and or else if it increases, be ready to pay higher. So depends. Okay, you cannot be really ready for that. You cannot be really ready for that. You have to just do whatever the situation demands, like that. So that is spot market. If a firm reserves too much capacity for the spot market, then the demand for the spot at that specific time turns out to be low. Then it runs the risk of idle capacity. See, you could have booked, say, 100 seats for an engineering branch, and demand turned out to be less, and now you could fill only 50 seats. So remaining 50 did not get filled, and you could have surrendered it to CET. That also you did not do. So it's a risk of running the idle capacity. At the same time, you have reserved 100 seats. Okay, remaining all other seats you have surrendered to CET. Demand increased, and you do not have the seat. You could have gained more income, more revenue, but you lost an opportunity of increasing your revenue because you have shortage of seats. That is nothing. Shortage of seats, that is nothing but uh, stock out, right? So these two situations may arise. So this can be solved by using a model. Okay, how that model is used, let us see. Let us assume that PF and PS PF is the price for this forward market, and PS is the price for the spot market. So this is the model. Cost of understocking is PS minus PF. Spot market you can gain higher. PF, if you do it well in advance, it will always be lesser. Okay. So as a result, what will happen? The cost of understocking is you did not procure properly. You went for understocking, and whatever the loss, it's for the higher pricing. So that's why it is PV minus PF. Similarly, cost of overstocking, you procured too much, so which is of no use at all. So that is nothing but forward pricing, forward purchasing, or forward market price. That is PF. So optimum service level is given by this formula. Same formula, it's not, there is no much difference. Okay. And finally, PS minus PF into 100 divided by PS. This is the formula for optimum service level. Take a simple example. Warehousing firm that has a warehouse in Gurgaon and has, as per industry practice, the firm's rents out capacity with month as the unit of time. It has a physical warehouse space for storing 50 metric tons of goods, and is trying to decide on how much capacity should be reserved for spot market and how much for the December month. It's in a dilemma. So whether to go with 10%, 20%, 30%, let us try to solve this problem. Forward market price is 150 per metric ton, whereas the spot market price is rupees 200 per metric ton. So whenever you purchase in advance, it will obviously be lesser and higher price for the spot market. Based on the past experience, the firm has found that the demand for the warehouse capacity in the spot market follows normal distribution with mean and standard deviation. As I've already explained, mean is the average of the data and standard deviation is the deviation from the mean. It could be plus or minus. Okay. And 10,000 is the mean and 3,000 metric tons is the standard deviation. These are the calculations. Okay, PS is equal to 200, PF is equal to 150. Substitute the values, cost of understocking, cost of overstocking, everything comes. Optimum reservation level is calculated using this formula, and it turns out to be 25%. Okay, let us see the table now, and to calculate the optimum level. From table, for a service level of 25%, K is equal to how much? 0.7 minus 0.7. From table we could get that service level of 25%, K is equal to minus 0.7. Substitute all those values. Optimum service level is turned out to be 7,900 metric tons. So 42,100 metric tons in the forward market, and reserve 7,900 metric tons for the spot market. So it is fixed. So it is just a guideline. Try to understand that it's a guideline. Whether you should go with 10,000, 20,000 for the spot market, you do not know. So based on the demand, based on the pricing, everything you have fixed that at 42,100 metric tons for the forward, and 7,900 metric tons for the spot market. Now let us understand what is overbooking. Okay, overbooking is the practice of booking seats in excess of the actual seats available. See, many a times what happens, people book the seats beyond the capacity. For example, see, if the flight has 180 capacity, they do 200 bookings. Do you know why? Because they have an estimation that at least 20 seats will be cancelled. So if they cancel 20 seats, they have gone for 20 excess booking. So it gets nullified, and they will get the advantage of not running the airline empty, or with free seats or idle seats. See, this is the one strategy. Even many engineering colleges, medical colleges do this. They take many seats well in advance, beyond the capacity, thinking that some of the seats will remain vacant as many students leave, or they may cancel their seats, or some of the seats may not be filled by the CET cell. So those seats can be converted into management seats. So even though the management quota has 100 seats, some of the engineering colleges will go with 120 bookings. So these 20 bookings are in excess of what is permitted actually, hoping that the CET quota, the 20 seats will remain vacant, and the excess booking can be adjusted to that. Now what happens? The problem is, there are two cases again. Whenever there are chances of cancellations in the last hour, so you can use it up for the unused capacity. That's a good thing. But the problem occurs when that situation gets messed up. Okay, let us understand that now. Understacking is, in the current context, represents a case when actual cancellations are larger than the overbooking done by the firm, and the cost of understocking is the opportunity of idle rooms in a hotel, which is P. This is one case wherein you have booked 20 seats and the cancellation is more than that. Say 40 cancellations are there. So some salvation, instead of 40 idle rooms, 20 overbookings you have done. Okay, the net loss is only 20 seats. That is termed as P. That cost is called as P. Next situation, look at the next situation. Overstocking, wherein you have done a overbooking of 20 seats, but the demand turned out to be 40. What will happen now? Overstocking in the current context represents a case where the actual cancellations are smaller than the overbooking. You have done a overbooking of 40 and the cancellations are only 20. Or you have done a overbooking of 20, cancellations are only 10. Okay, for 10 persons you will accommodate the room. What will happen to remaining 10 persons? Can you send them out? They will sue you in court, or they will ask for heavy compensation from your side. So that is termed as overstocking and termed as B. Okay. Now let us solve what should be the optimum number of overbooking. There is a model. Let us discuss that model now. So optimum service level is given by Cu into 100 divided by Cu plus Co. That is nothing but P into 100 divided by P plus B, where P is the understocking cost and B is the overstocking cost. Okay. And optimum order size is given by mean plus K into standard deviation, just like the previous model. Let's take a simple example. Okay, a Bengaluru hotel which has 100 deluxe rooms. Okay, and the charges around 2600 per day for all customers, and it has a mean of 15 and a standard deviation of 5. Okay, and because of the overbooking policy, whenever this hotel faces shortages of room, it accommodates the customer in the neighborhood hotel, and which charges 4,000. Okay, it's a bit costlier hotel. Anyway, you have taken the bookings, so you have to book the customers to the best possible facility and you have to move them to the nearest hotel. So that's what happens. Normally, when you take advance bookings, and if you cannot accommodate, or if some of the rooms run into trouble because of the repair in the electric line or repair in the plumbing line, then also you may have to accommodate them in the neighborhood hotel. That is how the business should run, or else the hotels will lose the customers. Okay, so what should be done? How should I plan? What should be the optimum service level? Let us calculate that. CU is equal to P, that is the understocking cost is given by P, that is equal to 2600. That is the normal room rent that the hotel charges. And CO, overstocking cost, is given by B, that is equal to 4000 minus 2600, that is equal to 1400. Even though hotel has to pay 4000 rupees, it has already collected 2600, right, from the customer, and hence the overstocking cost is only 1400 and not 4000. So what is the net loss? That is nothing but the penalty. That is nothing but the penalty for the hotel for not accommodating the customers who had booked a hotel in this particular who had booked a room in this particular hotel. Okay, so the net loss, that's a loss, but anyway, in order to retain customers, you have to do that. Let us solve it. Optimum service level is given by P into 100 divided by P plus B. So 65% is the optimum service level. And the table is given, and for that, what is the value of K at 65% level? Where is that 65%? Let us see that. 65.5, 0.4. You can see that here. So 0.4 is the value of K. Take that value from the table. Substitute that here. Mean cancellations is given by 5, and the mean cancellation is given by 15, and the standard deviation is given by 5. Substitute those values. Here mean means it is the mean number of cancellations. Okay, and standard deviation of cancellation means, see, on average 15 cancellations takes place. With a deviation of plus or minus 5 means there could be 10 or there could be 20 also. That is the meaning of that. Substitute those values and you will get it as 17. What does that mean? 17 means optimum number of overbookings. To what extent you can do overbooking? To an maximum extent of 17, not beyond that. Okay, 17 is the optimum number of overbookings which will not yield you in a trouble, or which will maximize your revenue or minimize your loss. It could be anything, or you can reap the maximum benefit when the number of overbookings are 17. What does that mean? That is exclusively based on the average number of cancellations. Okay, so in this case 65% of the time hotel will have an empty room, or the stock out rate is 35%. Okay, and 35% of the times it has to deny room for the customer. Finally, we will look at innovative pricing. This is the final topic. What is innovative pricing? Innovative pricing means something, thinking beyond the black box. Okay, conventional price theory often deals with homogeneous goods and bundles, normal way of doing the business, not much fanfare over there, no hype in the business, no hype in the pricing strategy. It's a normal procedure. Okay, but there are several instances where firms have used innovative differential pricing schemes to increase the revenue and profits in order to attract customers. If they attract more customers, more business will take place. If more business takes place, more revenue will flow in. If more revenue flows in, profit would be higher. This is the link Okay, so for everything, pricing is the criteria. So what are the various types of innovative pricing many companies follow? See, companies like P&G, Procter and Gamble have been using rebates or coupons to enhance the sales of their products. Kanwa Marketing was one such company, but later it ran into trouble and it has been closed now in India. In Karnataka, it was functioning in Karnataka and Andhra. Even they had many showrooms, garment showrooms, and they used to release coupon every week, and they had made a small advertisement in popular newspapers like Vijayavani and magazines like Taranga and so many other magazines also they had taken. And if you solve a small quiz and send it to them, they will send you some coupon. And if you show that coupon, that much of rebate you will get in the Kanwa store. That was the thing. Okay, and P&G has used that particular aspect, and even today in the newspapers when they introduce a product, they will have a small portion, take this coupon to retail center to avail a rebate of 25 rupees on the purchase. So that is a way of encouraging the customer or wooing the customer to uh, purchase that particular product. And few companies fix the price based on the price offered by the leaders of the market. That also happens many a times, especially automobile companies or even electronic companies. What they do, they look at who is the leader of the market, and based on that they will fix the price. When I was working in GKW at Bangalore, they used to follow this pattern. GKW was the leader of the market, and many other companies used to fix the price of the product or the part based on the GKW's price. Say fix 1 or 2 rupees less, attract the customers. So in order to, instead of scratching their head on how to fix the price and all those things, okay, let GKW do that, all the headache. I will fix a price 2 rupees less than that. That was the strategy. Few companies offer the concept of fix your own price. That is another innovative pricing concept. So we are not going to fix the price for this product. You use the product. Later you pay the price. That is the concept. And many a times it has been observed that the companies get more than what they would have actually fixed, because the customers become so happy about the product. Oh, this is a wonderful product, let me pay this much, I'm happy about this. Many hotels do this. May not be the manufacturing sectors, but service sectors follow this strategy. There is no price list. You eat whatever you want to eat, you eat, then you only fix the price, because you would have eaten this item elsewhere. You know what is the normal pricing. Do you feel the quality of our food is better or worse than that? You fix. If it is better, you pay us higher. If it is worse, you pay us lower. Normally, customers are not cunning people. They are not cheats. Uh, they try to fix up, okay, this is the price, and let me pay this much. Anyway, I have eaten, I'm satisfied. When customer gets satisfied, they, as a human being, we are not in a mood to cheat anyone. We are all good. In fact, we are all good. The situations make us bad, that's all. So whenever we feel satisfied, we pay them. And many a times it has happened that the owners get higher price than what they had anticipated. Usage of day pass in amusement parks, that is another beautiful offer. Instead of purchasing the tickets at individual events, you go to one ride, pay this much, another ride, second, instead of purchasing the ticket, standing in the queue, you purchase the day pass. You can sit or you can enjoy any number of rides, 12 hours time, 14 hours time. It is not transferable, that's all. And if you show this day pass at the restaurant, you will get a discount of 25%. That is another support for the restaurant that is being opened in the amusement park. So people, in order to get that 25% rebate, they avoid bringing the food from home and they go to restaurant. Okay, so these are all the ways of innovative pricing. The next one is introduction of subscription fee facility by Netflix. Instead of paying rent for each videos, you go with a subscription. Annual subscription, weekly subscription, monthly subscription, 6 monthly subscription. For 6 months, you watch any number of movies, any number of times. We are not going to ask you. At the end of 6 months, subscription ends. If you want to continue, you continue. If you do not want to continue, no one is forcing you up. But if the service is good, obviously people will turn towards that. Many salons have this, surprisingly. Many salons, I have seen a few salons going with the advertisement, 12 haircuts and 12 shaves in a year for 3,000, 4,000 rupees, like that, and all those things. So these are the innovative pricing, and people will start calculating how much should I pay for each shave, how much should I pay for each haircut, so will that work out for me? So now even if you are getting the haircut once in 2 months, just for the reason you have got that facility, you will go there, right? So now that is the way in which the companies or the organizations can woo their customers, can motivate the customers to come to them or improve the revenue. Send messages to customers on their birthday, marriage anniversary, and persuade them to purchase more or offer a discount on that particular day. That is another offer. I have seen one of the major textile showroom in Chennai do this. If you go and purchase any cloth over there once, they will ask you to fill up a form. In that, are you married? If you are married, what is the date of marriage? Everything they will say. Okay, and they will send a message on that particular day. Wish you a very happy marriage anniversary. Wish you a very happy birthday. Like that, they will say, beautifully send a greeting card along with that. Soft, maybe hard copy or maybe soft copy. Both are quite going on, and they will mention, if you show this coupon to our showroom, you will get a rebate of 10%, 5%, 15%. And now the partner is under trouble. So you have to go, because you will get a discount of 15%. And the partner will force you to go to the same shop because 15% discount, 10% discount. The textile shop got the business. If they had not sent that message, if they had not sent that card, would we have gone there? 99% no. So this is the way of various ways of innovative pricing. Okay. So in this chapter we have studied so many aspects about pricing and revenue management. Finally, there is one more thing, like Teachers' Day offer, Doctors' Day offer, Engineers' Day offer, Festival Day offers, like that. So if you go to a shop, they will ask you, sir, are you a teacher? If you say, yes, I am a teacher, can you show us the identity card? If you show the identity card, that is enough for them. Immediately you will get a discount of 10%. I had been to one of the prominent gold shops in Udupi, and on that particular day, I did not know they were offering a Engineers' Day offer on that particular day. And being an engineer, I got that offer, 5% discount on whatever I have purchased. So that's how it runs. It's all, see, whether the price is high or price is low, it doesn't matter. It just at that particular moment, it just sends a feel good factor to customer. Customer will have that feel good factor. Yes, this organization has something which others do not have. That is termed as feel good factor, and in business it is very, very important. So in this chapter, we till now we have discussed various aspects related to pricing, revenue management, various models related to pricing and revenue management, and how to improve the revenue under various conditions, like capacity constraints could be there, multiple segments could be there, multiple segments with capacity constraints could be there, right? And demand uncertainty could be there, and these are all the various aspects that we discussed in this revenue and pricing management. Thank you. With this, we end the module 4.